there are a lot of kids who want to surf, but I can't bring back that many boards. And I can't afford to buy like 200 boards either. So I just bring back whatever I can get. Like if my friends have like half broken boards, I'll tell them to connect it and I'll take it back. So we have a bunch of like half broken boards back home. But I mean, the kids from the village enjoy it and they started surfing a lot, even when I'm not there, and they started getting really good. Yeah. And then SEA Games happened. So we hosted like this competition where all the kids from the village were invited. We try to get girls too. So when SEA Games happened, we were like, okay, I don't want to just compete. Like there probably are other women too in the country. We just kind of had to makeshift a national team together. We hosted a national championships at Muisang, where we're like the winner of this competition will be selected to go to training camp for the SEA Games. So there was a women's league and a men's league. And in the women's league, it was me and 4 girls from the village and 2 more girls who were my age, who were from the city, who have surfed once or twice before. And so I like the women's league wasn't that many people, and the girls from the village have never surfed before. So I was like, okay, like then I'm going to the SEA Games. And we couldn't find any other women who would go to the SEA Games. So it was me and 5 boys. Me and 5 boys where I was the older person. So I was competing. I was helping, I was finding an apartment for them. I was figuring out who's going to feed them. Like I called my friend from LA, like, hey, like we have a national team, but we don't have money to hire a coach. So like, do you want to be our coach? So he flew over from LA. It was me, like my friend and 5 kids, boys from the village and my friend Carl. And we went on an adventure together, a 7-month training program before the SEA Games. So that's like the journey.
Hello everyone, my name is Din Long and welcome to the podcast Lifeline. In this podcast, I will interview people who are having a positive impact in their community and have a strong message that deserves to be shared. We will dive deeper into their journey becoming a change maker, and hopefully you can take away some insights for your own journey. And please do subscribe to Lifeline on YouTube, Apple Podcast, or any platform that you are using. And also you can share this episode with your friends if you like it. It's really what helps me the most. In today's episode, you will meet Nida Soe, who is a surfer who led Myanmar's first ever surfing delegation at the Southeast Asia Games in the Philippines in 2019. As her surfing journey built her confidence and created so many opportunities for her, she believes that surfing can help the youth connect with the power of action, and she co-founded the Surfing Association of Myanmar to fulfill this mission. She dreams to build a professional surfing ecosystem in Myanmar, through which the youth can learn the values of hard work, develop their resilience, connect with the nature, get exposed to new opportunities, and become professional athletes. She shares how she organized the first surfing trainings in Myanmar, how she can identify the best surfing spots with Google Earth, how she collected half-broken surfing boards from all around the world to bring to Myanmar, and how she prepared the national surfing team for the SEA Games. Enjoy this 2-hour episode and hope that you can start your own surfing journey super soon. Okay, cool. So happy to have you, Nida. Hello. Hi, Nida.
Hello. Hi, happy to have you too. Oh, sorry, we're recording, but I never asked you how you pronounce your name.
Oh, yeah.
Or
so
how do your friends call you?
It's so the international version is Din Long.
Okay.
But the Vietnamese version is Long.
Long. I see.
Yes. And
is Long uncomfortable?
Like, yeah,
Can
Long.
I call you Long?
Okay. Yes, yeah. You can call me DL or. but it's funny. Usually, Long is like it's how my parents call me and Vietnamese people, and it always felt more. How to say? It feels more intimate.
Yeah.
Like when people call me Long, because I felt like it's like our family circle, or so it's always funny when non-Vietnamese people call me Long.
Long it is.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And yeah, no. So So happy again. So I always start, I introduce a bit the backstory of why you are here and how we know each other. So we just met 18 minutes ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically it's Tuan from episode 17 who connected me with you. And basically how it started is, I always say that, but I always love exploring sports, social impact, and Tuan saw the episode with Ashrin, the basketball player, and he was like, "Oh, you should interview Nida." I was like, "Okay," and that's how it happened. So yeah, I'm super happy to welcome you here. And yeah, maybe just to kickstart, would you like to introduce a bit about yourself, where you are, what do you do these days, or just, anything that you want to share just to start?
Thanks, Long. Super nice to meet you too. And I'm super excited to talk about stuff today. So my name is Nida, and what I do is going to be a little bit all over the place. I guess you, our mutual connection, knew me through my work. So I work at a tech startup called BB. It's a startup based in Singapore, but a lot of us are from Myanmar, and we do a lot of we do a lot of work in the space, like the civic technology space, and also we try to do a lot of data trainings to help people understand data more. So that's my work, and I work remotely. So now I'm based in Bangkok, and I met Tuan through a training called Mekong Data Journalism Fellowship, where I also work as a data mentor. And that's where I met Tuan. We were working on reporting on climate issues in the Mekong. So that's my official job. And my other job, not a job that pays me, but my hobby is surfing. So in 2016, when I went back home to Myanmar, I had learned how to surf when I was in university in California, and I ended up I rented a room in a house, and all my housemates were from the surf team. It ended up being so. At first, I didn't surf because it was really difficult, and I was an athlete when I was young. I would say that was my identity, my main identity when I was young. So I was really just, could not figure out why I couldn't do this thing. It was so difficult. I couldn't do it. I was really beating myself down. And then one day my friend was just like, you just got to keep trying and you're going to get it. So anyway, long story short, I started surfing. I came back. We didn't really have surfing in Myanmar at that time, or I didn't really see anyone on the beach surfing or knew anyone who surfed. So I went to this beach that me and my family always visit. And I took my surfboard back home and I went to surf, and I met a lot of kids in the water who were part of a sailing program. But the sailing program was also doing some social impact stuff in Hue Sa, my home beach. And I was like, they really liked it. So I left my surfboard. I went back to college, came back, brought more surfboards, met more people who were interested in, building up a program around surfing. I also really like that it's it helps kids become more aware of the environment. So 2019, we, through a friend of a friend, someone from the Philippines contacted me, and they're like, we are hosting the SEA Games and we want to include surfing. And if 4 countries sign, we can include it. So we became a we were like, okay, first we need to form a national surf team. So, so I met some people who were running kite surfing programs, windsurfing programs before, and they helped me set up an official association. So we set it up because the only water sports in the country at that time, the only official recognized water sports was sailing. We were recognized under sailing, and we were able to go to the SEA Games. So that was my first like jump from, okay, like I can do a lot more, because I can see that the kids love it. We have a lot of good people in the region who are very willing to help us as well. And when we went to the SEA Games, like we were able to take, 5 kids from the village, and to them it was like a huge whole new world. They like, it gave them, I don't know if this sounds super cheesy, but like one of them said that like now doesn't feel so lost anymore. So then I started realizing, okay, like maybe there's something here, and it's good. It's a good thing that's happening. So I want to keep doing it. And even though I would like to be doing more right now. It's too bad that I can't be home. So some of the plans for my surfing endeavors are paused for a couple months now. So I'm hoping to start again for the next surf season. So in Southeast Asia, we don't have waves anymore in the dry season, and the season will start again in the wet season. So yeah, so that's surfing. I guess right now in my life, it'd be data and surfing would be the 2 things that I am trying to commit a lot of time to.
Well, I have so many questions already. No, but it's interesting. Like data surfing might seem so far away from each other. So I wonder, how do you bring them together sometimes?
Mm-hmm. Yes, in a very strange way. But so there's data but my background is in very similar to Tuan's, actually. That's how we ended up talking a lot. So I got a degree in geodesign, which is working with like maps, making maps, geographic data, basically. So there's like numerical data, and then there's geographic data, which is working with maps, right? And in surfing, how I've been using it is, if I go on Google Earth Pro, Myanmar is quite undiscovered in terms of surfing, because we have a long coast, but because we don't have a very good infrastructure, it's not like California where you can drive up and down the road and find surf spots and like jump in the water and surf. It's like mountains and no roads, dirt roads. So I wanted to find where's the most likely place, where are the most likely places in Myanmar that might have waves, and then kind of pinpoint it and then have a direction, So I would use like Google Earth, and then you can actually see when there's this thing called ocean bathymetry, which is like how the floor is underwater, and you can tell by how the floor is underwater where most of the waves can be. If you want to easily see it, you can zoom in on Google Earth, and you can see if you see little white foams in the water, there's a higher probability that, a wave is breaking there. So yeah, hopefully I can follow my Myanmar wish list, Myanmar surf trip plans soon. But for now, I'm just looking at it through a computer.
It's so interesting.
Yeah.
So the knowledge you got from your studies or your professional skills, you apply it via Google Earth to find surfing spots in Myanmar. Did you find like good ones? I mean, did you potentially good ones?
Yeah. So this actually happened recently in my life that like I got super excited about, but I didn't really. Anyway, now it's my chance to share. So when I got to Bangkok, I met a stand-up paddleboard company, Starboard, they were doing climate. So they want to be a zero carbon company, and the way they offset their carbon is by planting mangroves in Myanmar. So I met these people, and we got talking about surfing, and they were like, yeah, like we bet like there's a lot of waves in Myanmar. We want to do our social impact there. And I told them like, yeah, you should check out this spot that, I've been looking at it on Google Earth like but for different months. And I think there's going to be a wave here. It's a lagoon in the south of Myanmar. And they're like, oh, we've been there. Like we went there and there was a wave. So we're going to set up we really want to set up a water sports center there. They were supposed to start doing the plan this year. And as like things happen politically and they had to put a halt on it too. And I was like, what? No way. Like, so I was right. Like there was a wave.
Yeah, you were right.
Exactly that spot, like the name of the beach and everything. And so I thought I thought of that as like, well, the stars are aligning, like, like things are bad, but I can see that there are also good things that can happen in the future. Yeah, I don't know. So yeah, I was super excited about that. My mapping abilities weren't just all in my head.
It's really something I never ever thought about in my life doing. I mean, what you just said, so I find it so. It's a mix of mind-blowing, eye-opening, all this stuff. So? Well, it's really cool. And so yeah, back to your super nice intro. Oh my God, so many things I want to say. But I found it interesting that, I mean, that you mentioned, yeah, surfing is your hobby, but you still end up in the Southeast Asia Games. I think for me that's interesting sentence. But I mean, I can understand, and we'll come back to that. But one thing I want to as well is you mentioned that you would define yourself as an athlete when you were young. So maybe, look, why were you so sporty when you were young? Like, what happened? I mean, is it your parents who push you, or is it your personality?
My parents didn't really push me, but they weren't against it either. I think it had a little to do with my personality. Also a lot to do with, so I guess like personality, right? If we talk about that, I vividly remember I used like when I was around like middle school, where I had to move to a new school, and I had gotten a scholarship to go to a private school in Myanmar, and like it's like prestigious or whatever, and and I joined the basketball team, and we don't get to do like only private schools had like seriously extracurricular activities like that. So I joined the basketball team, and I was really bad. I sucked, and I vividly remember like they put me in at the end of the game, and then like we lost because I scored my own basket.
How can you do that?
It was middle. I don't even know if the rules are right, but I remember we lost because I scored my own basket, because I was like, yeah. Anyway, that felt horrible. That was awful for a 13-year-old, at a new school. So that summer, I like basically just attached a hoop at the side of my house, and just like I was so emotionally traumatized. And I became really good so the next year I just became really good, and it was I think at that time it was a safe space for me, where like I live across the street from my house, where if I don't want to be home, I usually spend like all day and all night in the gym, and I would just go back at like night, I would like be friends with the security guards and be like, hey, like I live nearby, just like let me be in the gym. So I think as I got older, I became better at it, and it was nice for a young person to be good at something, and it helped me. Like it helped with my confidence. It helped keep my studies up because you can't do sports if you have a C. Like we had a bunch of rules at the school, so it helped me like not go down, like not be with the wrong type. I don't, like as a child, it helped me a lot, and I was good at it. And I was competitive. I was good at it. So I started playing for my city, like I guess amateur leagues in my city around when I was around 16. And then my last year of high school, it was the SEA Games again in 2013. And since I was playing in the amateur leagues, they recruited a bunch of us to go to Naypyidaw, which is like the city, and to go to a camp, like a gold camp there for tryouts. But if I were to do that, I would have to postpone university because I was already in my last year of high school, and like everyone wants you to go to the US if you went to a private school. So I went to Naypyidaw. It wasn't that great of an experience. I felt like, they were looked down on their own athletes. I felt like that. Like, why is my country not treating us well when they have the facility? Why are they putting us in one big room and everyone has to sleep with mosquito nets? And they, and I didn't. I was very. It was unfortunate because like I knew other women who only had basketball. They had gone through the public school system. They went through the Ministry of Sports, and this is their life, and they don't get treated so well. And I was like, I don't know if this is what I want to do. Like, so instead of postponing college, I decided not to complete the tryouts and didn't get to do the SEA Games in 2013. Yeah. So, but till that point, I think I would consider myself an athlete because I would be at practice at like 5 a.m. for a school sports team. And then after school, I would go to my city, like the gym for my city team. And I would do the practice there. And then it would be like 8 at night and I would like do my schoolwork and then do it all over again. And I never found it tiring. I found it quite fun, I think. I found it quite fulfilling. Yeah, so that was like before I went to school in the US.
I find it so interesting the moment, because, like, I think most of people had childhood trauma. So you mentioned when you scored your own basket. But, I mean, usually childhood trauma, they stay childhood trauma because then you are traumatized. You don't want to play ever again. So I don't know what made you think that, okay, I'll put a basket in my house and then I'll just practice to be the best. Like, because I didn't hear a lot of stories, especially as you're very young, that you would, people will be traumatized and okay, I do something else. But what made you, is it, yeah, I know, are you like this or like?
I think, yeah, that's partly my personality. I spend a lot of time, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I spend a lot of time in my head. And I like it where like something is so immersive that I don't like my brain is still, and I think even now when I'm a little bit more grown up, I still try to find like if something makes me still, I like it. And when I was young, that thing became sports. Yeah. So I was I remember being very fidgety. Yeah, I wasn't a great student, but I did well. I did okay. I wasn't like studious, like always in the books, but sports like made me very still. It's very immersive. So you're at that, like if you played for an hour, for that hour, your brain is doing one thing, your brain is, even though you're running around, your brain is doing one thing. And I don't think I realized that at that time. When I was a teenager, I probably just did it because I enjoyed that feeling. But I think when the older I get, the more I like when I try to understand myself, I think that's one of the things that I really enjoy. Just being still, yeah. Mentally being still, yeah.
And it was basketball because your school had a team, or it could have been any sport back then.
So at that time, it was I did all the sports in the school for all the seasons. So there was a year where we got the Triple Crown. They called it the Triple Crown because our school had won the city like volleyball championships, the basketball championships, and the football championships. Our women's team. And I mean, like, it wasn't a big deal. Like, I mean, now it's not a big deal because it was like just a school competition, you know, between schools. But at that time, like, you know, it was kind of fun. I mean, I was good at it. So, you know, you tend to like things that you're good at. So I ended up spending a lot of time in the gym and just doing sports. Yeah. So I played volleyball. I didn't do this. So I had to pick between volleyball and basketball if I wanted to go to the city level. And I just picked basketball. And in Myanmar, I think people don't really care about women's sports. But I think that's like very common in Asia. So our leagues, it sounds a bit fancy, but I think we were just a bunch of women who like to play sports. Yeah, and not a lot of people watched it either. It was just for ourselves. Yeah.
You know, like basket, surfing, foot, etc. Looks like you always win. Is it something? I mean, is it, do you always want to win? I mean, is it, in your mindset, like I want to win the competition, or if I play badminton or anything, I want to win. I'm proud of it,
Yeah. Yeah, I think I don't think I'm that like competitive. Of course, if you do sports, like losing is not fun, but I like the physical activity. Like I don't even have to consciously think about it for me to like fully, give 100% when it comes to physical activity. I like to think of it as a form of art, like a movement art, physical movement art. It's almost like a physical movement art where you do it. If you do it more and more and more, you just get so much better at it, and you didn't even know that your body could do it. So, so like building on that, when I found surfing, it was like when you have a big wave and you didn't even think, like, I never imagined, like, I was in my head, I'm like, how is a tiny person doing this, like how is a human doing this? And it was so cool to me. It was so interesting to me that the human body can do this, that I really fell in love with it. Yeah, I think it was more about like just excelling, like just pushing yourself to the point that you can push yourself. I think that was what drove me. Yeah. It's really strange. I just run. So how I win is I was just a lot fitter than everyone. I was just a lot more physically fitter than a lot of the women my age, I guess, when I was young. So I wasn't necessarily like so good at football. That's how I win. I just was able to run around the field like multiple times and be fine. Yeah.
And yeah, I think the moment you, had to decide whether, okay, I try to play basketball professionally or study university. I found it so interesting. But while growing up, was it in your, I don't know, what were, your childhood dreams back then? Was it more towards sports or towards something else?
Yeah. So I was really into basketball when I was playing. But like, I think, let's say if I was in a country where they had an established sports system, right? If I went, I don't know, like easy example is the US. Like in the US, if you went to high school and your high school had a sports team, you could go play in college because all the college coaches would come recruit at the high school, right? And if you wanted to be professional, you could get recruited in college to get to the professional level. And it is a real career. Like people do make a real career out of it in the US. But it was different in Myanmar, where I think every time I was playing basketball, as much as I loved it, almost everyone around me kept reminding me, this is just a hobby. You can't really survive off of this, and yada, yada, yada. Of course, like every child's dream is to do something cool, which is sports is cool, So I had all this, a lot of people in my, I guess in my parents' circles weren't really a huge fan of pursuing arts or sports. Very typical of Asian families, I think. But yeah, so I wanted to play basketball in college because the US was so it's the USA, when you're in Myanmar, you think you're like, oh my God, I want to play basketball in the NCAA and everything. But I also understood why all the grown-ups keep saying you have to make, like, you can't make a living out of this, like, because in our country, this and this and that. So I understood that too. So I wanted to pursue sports medicine. Like, I'll do sports and then I'll cure myself. That was my 17-year-old like perfect world scenario. But so I did pursue a sports medicine degree when I went to college at the beginning, but I ended up going to a big university. So it's in LA. I went to USC, and USC was known to be like very, very big in sports in America. Like, they were a very famous college for athletics. And of course, I'm 5'0", and I try to go to the tryouts, and it doesn't even work that way because the university, like in America, if you're a university that has a really good sports team, you get to pick whoever you want in the whole country, and all the athletes are recruited and they're on full scholarships and they're playing for the school. But it's almost like a profession if you get to that level in America, right? If you get to play for a school like USC. So I couldn't play basketball anymore, basically, because I didn't go through the US system. I didn't get recruited. Like, you almost never get recruited at tryouts, walk-in tryouts. So basketball was like, slowly, I still played club basketball, but slowly I started getting more hurt. Like, the game was just so much more intense when I got to college. Like, they were so tall. They were girls who were like 6'2", and after a while it's just like, okay, like, I don't want to play this anymore. I keep getting hurt. Like, it's not fun. It's not like when we're in school where you had your friends watching and it's like a whole community event. So slowly I started playing less and less basketball, and sports medicine too. A lot of what we had to do was like, we had a very big football team. So part of my major is we had to do practical field work where I had to follow the football team and just like ice these men, massage these men. I was just like, you know what, this sucks. Like, I don't know if I want to do this. I don't think I started losing interest. I was by myself in college. I started, like, doing worse and worse at my studies. So like first year, I did really bad in my first year. Couldn't play ball. Like, school wasn't going right. Like, it was a new city. So I ended up just like dropping all my classes, and I was like, okay, let me see how far I can push until I get sent back home. And then I just went, like, they told me they would kick me out of school if I didn't have any classes by next week. So I really just stumbled across geodesign in school, like this whole mapping stuff and geography and data and environment. I stumbled across this major. It was the second year that the major was created. So it was fairly new, like a very small program. And I became super interested in it. we were like in a university that's like 50,000 people. I was in the class with 3 students and 1 professor.
Oh.
Yeah. So it was like, it was a safe, like it was a, like a, like a bright light for me at that time because I was about to get sent back home, because the school's like, you're not going to be a student if you're not enrolled in any classes. So yeah, so after that, I ended up doing a lot of field work. I didn't do any sports anymore for a couple months. And I started, hanging out with friends, just like as a normal college student would, doing things that a normal college student would. And then I moved into like, I moved into I rented a room in a house, and like a lot of my friends were surfers. And I just ended up like, I didn't have a car, so I just ended up going wherever they went, and they went to the beach a lot. And I would just sit there, and it started getting boring because they would surf for hours and hours. So so that's how just like my friends taught me how to surf. So I started surfing more and more and more after that. So my last 2 years, the last 3 years, I was in the US. I was surfing like almost every day with my friend.
Do you remember your first surfing lesson?
Yeah, it wasn't a lesson. They weren't so good at like hand holding me. So it was a lesson. That was the first time I I was like, okay, give me the board, I'll try it. And I couldn't get past. They were able to paddle out to the water, and I couldn't figure out how they were doing it. I didn't know that you had to dive or like duck dive. We call it a duck dive, where there's a wave in front of you. You like sink your board and you dive through it in order to get past it. So I didn't know any of it. So what kept happening was I keep swimming, and then there would be a wave like hits me in the face. I would just be like, and I would stand up, and I'm on like 2 feet of water still. And I keep going, and it keeps getting hit in the face, and I can't get past it. So I remember I just sat on the beach and just teared up a little. Like, I'm no longer an athlete anymore, But then I think, and I kept trying, and I had a really bad learning experience where I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know that you had to pick the right board. You have to have like a big board if you're beginning to surf. I didn't know that you had to pick smaller waves if you're beginning to surf, because I was just following my friends. So my learning curve was really awful. But then I wasn't scared to surf bigger waves anymore. So I remember my first like real wave where I caught the wave and rode it, and I could see like it was a fairly good sized wave that's like a little bit over my head. Like my first real wave was in Lombok in Indonesia. Before that, it was just all struggles. Like I would stand up, but it wouldn't have like I didn't feel like I actually rode a full wave and felt the acceleration. Like my first moment of acceleration was in Lombok. I think it took me like 2 years to get there. Yeah.
When you say real wave, like so you say it's a bit higher than your size. How long do you last in the wave, and like how do you feel? I really don't know anything.
Yes. So really good surfers will be able to know where the wave is coming from. They can place themselves in the right position, and then when the wave breaks, they can just ride. We call it the face of the wave, which is not the white part, but the open, the slope part, and they'll be able to like go up and down and turn and stuff. But like it takes a while to get there for you to be able to analyze the ocean the minute you get there, and the ocean's always changing. So even if it's like your waist height, if you're a really good surfer, you'll be able to make the best out of it, But I was just starting out, so the only reason I called it a real wave was because it felt like a real wave to me, where I was in the right place at the right time, and I was able to take the wave from the beginning that it started breaking, we call it. So it breaks, and then you like catch it, and then you're able to like ride up and down the face, like do like one or two turns. And that was like, oh, like I'm like, wow, okay. That's like the next step of exhilaration. First, it was just, I was stressing out if I couldn't paddle through big waves. I didn't know how to duck dive that well. I was just still freaking out in the water, where later I became a lot more still. Like I was able to understand, okay, like you can't just like flop around everywhere and catch a wave and ride it. You actually have to be so, like, it's better if you're more still and you like look at the beach, you look at the waves, and then you kind of analyze, okay, like the swell is coming from this direction. I want to be around here, and I should wait here until the wave comes because I know it's going to come. Like that type of mentality shift happened when I was in Lombok. Before that, I was like a flopping chicken in the water. Like trying to go there, see if there's a wave, like going there, see if there's a wave. And I end up missing a lot. So even if I went out for a 2-hour session, I would only catch like 4 waves. And yeah, that learning curve was quite steep. And I understand why it's so hard for people to get into surfing, because one, like the learning curve is a little steep, and two, if you don't have access to the beach and you only surf a couple times a year, it's hard to, like, it looks cool to watch on the film because everyone films pros, but then when you look at yourself, you're like, wow, that actually looks so awful. Yeah, so a lot of things in surfing that I learned. It's something, if you want an activity that you can keep improving on forever, and you don't want to be bored of doing the same thing every day. Surf and you're close to the beach. Surfing is definitely something that will keep you healthy and like engaged for a long time, I think. Yeah, sorry, I rambled on. I think I went on a bunch of topics.
So, like, so you were in Indonesia 2 years after you tried surfing for the first time? It was like...
yeah, it was like 2 years after I tried surfing for the first time. Yeah.
So you went to Lombok just to surf, or was
just to surf?
Okay.
Yeah. I was really hooked. So it also helped me, I think, with my I don't want to say mental issues because I don't really like that word, with my personal problems, like emotional things that I had to deal with at that time. It helped me a lot with that. And I think that was when I started using it as almost like an escape, but also just because it made me feel good, I started doing more and more of it. So I started going on a lot of surf trips after the first 2 years. I became a super frugal college student. I would like save all the money and then like
you would go in the US or like in any
in the US, and also when I come back to Southeast Asia, I would go in Southeast Asia. Most of the time I ended up in Indonesia just because they have waves year round. It's like a pretty safe bet for your surf trip money. So I went to this village called Grupuk in Lombok, in south of Lombok Island in Indonesia. There was nothing there but surfing. There's literally nothing there but surfing. And it was really fun. Like I really enjoyed that period where I was going to places in the middle of nowhere to surf.
The waves are like, what is, if you surf in California, if you surf in Lombok, do you have different like sensation, different feeling, or is it I play badminton, so for me a badminton court is the same in Indonesia, the same as the US. So like, how are the waves different?
Yeah. So waves are one thing, and the other thing is one, in California the water is super cold. Pacific Ocean's really cold, so you always have to surf with a wetsuit, right? And the water's a lot murkier, a lot darker. It's a little bit foggier at most times and a little sharkier. and we call it sharky, a little sharkier in California, but like it has its own vibes because in California, like you get, if you go during sunset or sunrise, you get these crazy colors. The environment's different, the water's different, the waves are different, but California has big days, small days. We have to worry about sharks a little bit more in California. But even although sharks are not the problem. But in Groupo, it's more like, you know, tropical waters, blue water, warm, hot, you get sunburned. So the spot that I was surfing, we call it a reef break. So it's not sand at the bottom, it's corals. And you can't paddle out to the wave. You have to take a boat out into the ocean. So all these things are like, it's the same surfing, but you're at two completely different environments. In LA, after I surf, it's super cold, so I just want to be cozy in the tropics. I surf, and then maybe I drink a beer, and then I maybe go surf again. And you don't have to wear a shirt. You don't have to wear slippers. Different kinds of bliss. I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How was because you used to like younger, it feels like you only did team sports. So how was it to move from? I mean, I guess surfing is individual sport only, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How is the transition?
There was definitely a transition where I did not do any physical activity because I was just sad because I wasn't an athlete anymore after when I first got to college. But I think now I love that it is a individual sport. And like when I was younger, it wasn't because I picked team sports. It was like I also did individual sports like badminton and table tennis and basically anything out there I would do. But I think the more you grow up, it's harder to find a community to do team sports. So I really like that surfing can still bring you the same type of endorphin boost like other team sports, and you just keep improving on yourself, which I think is a better drive than trying to improve because people are watching. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
A shift. I would say it was like a shift in my life journey. It was like a realization. Of course, when I was young, I don't think about it too much. I just do sports, but like I do. I like the attention, and of course, part of my drive is I like the attention, and I liked it when I won. But I do realize that part of the drive is from the outside attention. But now it's like, it's a lot more empowering to me to have a drive because I want to be better and not because of anything else. Yeah.
Also, what I found interesting is, like, when you mention your home beach or even Lombok, it's a place where you just show up by yourself with your board. But then you connect with the whole surfing community. I mean, I feel like quite easily. So for me, it's like it's an individual sport, but at the same time, you have this community feeling anywhere that you go. I find it very, like, even if you don't know anyone, if you know, and I don't know if it's surfing mindset or something.
It's definitely partly surfing, I think. It's almost cool in the surfing culture if you're super famous and you don't act super famous. And there's like surfing, there's the pro surfing, which is the WSO, and people do World World Surf League stuff where you have all the pros, but you have the other side of surfing, which is more like culture, lifestyle, the hang loose type of people. You get a lot of those. So yeah, like it's exactly like you said, it's an individual sport. But if I go back to Lombok, I'll still be friends with the people who surf because they'll never leave the village because they love surfing. It's the same in Bali where like there's a really famous wave in Bali, Uluwatu. It's really famous for people who are a little bit more advanced. And for people like me, it's like for the days where I'm feeling, like, okay, I can do this, I would go surf there. Same there, like all the people who surf there, they surf there every year. They don't want to go anywhere. They love their home. They grew up there. They're pros there. And you just see them in the water. Like they run the bar right next door. So when you go to the bar, they're still there every year. You go back. So it became like a little community everywhere for me. And I found that super cool. I feel like I met a lot of people around the world, and I was able to also meet, the different communities that these places had, and I wanted it for my own beach. I think it's
perfect transition because I think I like it how surfing itself is an individual sport, but surfers make it more like a community. And then you added this component where you also added a big meaning. I mean, a mission behind behind your surfing activities, because you said, I mean, from what I understand, you are really driven to, push the surfing sport in Myanmar. Also, when you went back to your home beach. But yeah, you mentioned a bit briefly in the beginning, but yeah, could you? So you come back to Myanmar once in a while. You take your board with you.
Mm-hmm.
It must be so annoying.
Yeah, you get used to traveling with it. Yeah, we have really fun ways to pack boards.
So you show up in that home beach the first time. So yeah, like then what happens?
Oh yeah, so I show up. So I knew that. So the only link that I had to water sports was I knew people were scared of the water in Myanmar. It's very taboo. Like when I was growing up, if we go to the beach, your parents would tell you don't go in the water. There's whirlpools. Like, oh, we heard the dead scream at night. All these folklore, and it's it's actually. It still exists in the coastal villages, these folklores, because people die. People die every year because they can't swim and they don't know what rip currents are. And people die every year still just by drowning by the shore. So there's these folklores, and I knew that if I went just randomly with no one there, I knew like when I come home, my parents are a little bit more protective of me, like if I'm around. And I knew I wouldn't be able to go to where I wanted to go to if I just said I'm just going to show up at a random beach. So the closest thing to water sports was the sailing people. I knew the sailing people had training camps in the beach. So I went to a hotel that hosted the sailing training camps, and just because I kind of figured, okay, there's probably a lifeguard there, if something went wrong, there's probably a lifeguard there, because they do water sports, like sailing training camps. So I went to that hotel, took my board, just went out surfing, came back in the water. And of course, like I went with my uncle, who was freaking out when I paddled out because he thought I was drowning because there was a really strong current and I got pulled. And so he went to go get the security card in the hotel. And like a bunch of people were waving at me from the land when I was surfing, and I just like waved back. But then they started screaming and I was like, okay, something's wrong. And I went back in and they thought I was drowning. I explained to them it's fine. The security guard said, you can't go out there by yourself. I'm like, I'm fine. Like I have a surfboard, like waves are not that big. And they're like, no, you can't go. And I met a guy Carl, who still helps me with the self surfing stuff. I met him. He was the person in charge of the sailing team at that time. And he was like, "Hey, like, do you know how to surf?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine." Can you tell these people that I'm fine? And he was like, "Oh yeah, I see." They were going to have a sailing camp at that time. And I connected with him there. And he was like, he also knew what surfing was. And he also had, it was like, he never really thought that it would happen. Like we were able to do it, we would be able to do it so soon. But he was like, he wants to expand other water sports. He's been doing windsurfing, and he asked me if I wanted to, do like a little small surf camp for the kids. And yeah, and just like organically, we became better friends. And when the SEA Games happened, it became a little bit more official. Where now, like we have now we have to figure out like if we want to have sponsors, like this and that. But I think at the beginning, it happened very organically. It was a lot of luck. Where I was like, it would be nice to have a lifeguard on the beach. So I ended up going to this. I ended up staying at this hotel for a bit and met the people who were running the sailing camp. And with that, I just left the surfboards. I would come back every year whenever I get a break from school. And slowly we started getting more and more kids who, we started getting more and more boards too. That's like part of I think that was one of the main things as well. There are a lot of kids who want to surf, but I can't bring back that many boards. And I can't afford to buy like 200 boards either. So I just bring back whatever I can get. Like if my friends have like half broken boards, I'll tell them to connect it and I'll take it back. So we have a bunch of like half broken boards back home. But I mean, the kids from the village enjoy it, and they started surfing a lot, even when I'm not there, and they started getting really good. Yeah, and then SEA Games happened. So we hosted like this competition where all the kids from the village were invited. We try to get girls too. So when SEA Games happened, we were like, okay, I don't want to just compete. Like there probably are other women too in the country. We just kind of had to makeshift a national team together. So we hosted a national championships at Mekong, where we're like the winner of this competition will be selected to go to training camp for the SEA Games. So there was a women's league and a men's league. And in the women's league, it was me and like four girls from the village, and two more girls who were my age, who were from the city, who have served once or twice before. So the women's league wasn't that many people, and the girls from the village have never surfed before. So I was like, okay, then I'm going to the SEA Games. And we couldn't find any other women who would go to the SEA Games. So it was me and 5 boys. Me and 5 boys, where I was the older person. So I was competing. I was like, I was helping, I was finding an apartment for them. I was figuring out who's going to feed them. Like I called my friend from LA, like, hey, like we have a national team, but we don't have money to hire a coach. So like, do you want to be our coach? So he flew over from LA. It was me, like my friend, and 5 boys from the village, and my friend Carl. And we went on an adventure together, a 7-month training program before the SEA Games. So that's like the journey. Prior to 2019 SEA Games.
I have 1 million questions. Oh my God, it's so
we had to makeshift a lot of things. We had to work with what we had.
But yeah, to come back, you use the word luck, but I think it's luck that you have proactively looked for. I think because you could either look for lifeguards on Facebook, on Google, and never find anything and give up, or you just go there and I'll see what happens. And you decided to do that. Okay, I have a lot of questions. So maybe the SEA Game. So because Okay, so the sea game phone call that you mentioned,
Uh-huh.
it's totally unexpected, or like how it's like you just
Totally
you
unexpected.
okay.
It was an email. Um, yeah, it was an email. So I think, okay, let me think, well, how was the connection made? Yeah, I had a friend who was Filipino who was working in Yangon, who I think at the time worked for Unilever, who knew a friend in the Philippines, um, who knew who knew a Instagram, like a very famous surfer on Instagram who's Filipino. And this friend who's Filipino, who was in Myanmar, I guess like his friend was like, hey, do you know anyone from Myanmar who's a surfer? Like we're having this. And then he contacted me, and that was so random.
So
And
it's
then I called, sorry, go ahead.
so the influencer is linked to the sea games.
Yeah, so the influencer is actually, his name is Luke Landrigan. He's actually the team manager for the Filipino national surfing team.
Ah,
Yeah. Yeah. So when we went there, like it's also a very small community there. So we met Luke, like we met all the Filipino surfers, and in the Philippines, I think Luke has made Luke is working on uh, letting surfers have a career out of surfing. So he does like national champion, like he does a lot of club. They have a lot of surf clubs, and they host lots of championships in the country, and like the scene is thriving in Philippines, and they have really good surfers. They have really good waves. So yeah, it's very they take it very serious now. They take it like a competitive sport, not like a chill lifestyle. I'm a surfer, cool dude, like cool girl, cool dude. Like they take it very seriously in Philippines now because Luke has made it a point that, you know, if you want to make it as an athlete, you can't we can't do what surfing. I think surfing used to have a very like chill connotation. You know, like people would when you say surfer, you see beach, weed, Bob Marley, you know. But now, because surfing is now in the Olympics, surfing is now in the Sea Games in Southeast Asia, they're trying to help people be able to make a career out of surfing. Like very similar in Myanmar, like people, like our boys from the village, they're not so well off. It's the same in the Philippines. And it's like, but like if these kids get to the Olympics, to them it's like a dream that, you know, it's like you either win the red race or you win this. And I think it's cool that he's allowing kids who grew up in the coastal areas that you live right by the beach, and this is something that you can definitely do in like as a career in your life. I mean, and I think it's good. It keeps you physically healthy. It keeps you engaged with the community. And also, like, I haven't met one surfer who doesn't care about the environment. I think you have to be so, like, the ocean is where all this, like, the bad stuff from the land comes out to, right? And like, you get to surf in pretty dirty water and you realize that's not okay, and we can't keep going that. Yes, it's selfish because you're doing it so that you can surf in clean water, but sure, then there's nothing wrong with that. People are still doing something good. Yeah. The trash problem is because like most people who surf go to a lot of beaches, and every single beach you go to has a lot of trash. And when you see that every single day, you start to get pretty dystopian about the world. You start to see a lot of dead sea animals. Yeah. So that's the other good thing that's the other thing that I want to encourage in Myanmar, is that through surfing, I hope that people become a little bit more connected to their home, to the world.
Yeah, and where so I oh my god this is like, um is this connection with the ocean, is it something you had before surfing, or is it something you developed through surfing?
Definitely developed through surfing. I was so scared of the ocean before.
Mm,
I grew up in Yangon, so I had no ocean around me. I was so
yeah.
scared of the ocean because I grew up with the folklore, you know.
Mm,
But yeah, I was very lucky that as like a 5 years toddler, I was very into swimming. So I did like toddler swimming competitions. So I was like, but I'm still scared of open water is different than swimming pool. Like I think and 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 I think a lot of people in Myanmar haven't gotten over that fear
mm,
of open water. Which is like it's understandable, but also it's such a it's unfortunate because there's so much that you can enjoy in open water, and I wish people were a little bit less scared of it, but try to understand it a little more, and you know,
mm,
try to have like rational fears, I guess.
yeah.
Um,
And just to come back briefly on the Sea Games, so the deal was we need 4 delegations,
uh-huh.
and then it can be a Sea Game official sport.
Yep.
And your role was to basically, they ask you, can you create a delegation of
Yep.
Myanmar?
Yep. In like a week, I think.
So how did you feel when you received the email? Were you like, yes, all in, or you were like, I have to think about it?
I got the email, and I knew my friend Carl, who was doing sailing, that they go to the Sea Games for the sailing team.
Oh, okay.
So I asked like, "Hey, I got this email. I have no clue. Like, I knew what the Sea Games was, but this is more like administrative stuff. You know, you have to talk to the Ministry of Sports. You have to get officially recognized by the country to be a sports team. And you can't just like sign up to the Sea Games and go. It has to be like your country has to be like, okay, we're sending our national athletes to you. You have to take, and it like you get a diplomatic passport basically when you go on these things. So I had a week. I knew nothing about the Ministry of Sports, and the Ministry of Sports back home is they try, they try, but anyway. So and so we were like, okay, like we only have 5 days. If we want to make a federation, it's going to take like 6 months, like with all the paperwork. I have to go to the Ministry of Sports, like show them that I have real people doing this thing. First, explain what the hell surfing is to the Ministry of Sports. So it wasn't going to happen in a week. So I was like, okay, like what's the fastest way? And Carl was like, we can make surfing part of the water sports, a bigger like so under a federation you can have different associations, so and applying for association is easier. I can just say I'm an association that's an arm of the sailing federation. We have the same sort of, you know, like management and like all the, so basically writing on the back of all of their official documents, so that we can be an official national team, so that we can give a signature as a country that we want to take part in it. So that was also something that happened that was a big milestone for us. If we couldn't have done, if we didn't do that, if we didn't do that in a week, we wouldn't have been able to go to the Sea Games. So I was very thankful that I had people who were also very, who really believed that, you know, sports is not something that people just shove to the side. Like there's something very crucial that this can provide to a child's development, and only when you realize that can you are you willing to help, you know, go through all this paperwork, because none of us are getting paid for it. Like it's all out of my pocket. That's why I need a full-time job. So yeah, so Sea Games was like I had a day to think about it. And I asked my friends, the Carl who works with me together on this. I asked him like, should we do this? Like, what resources will we need? And yeah, we were like, we can do this. Like, we're never going to get this opportunity again. We should take it and try to get the paperwork done. And yeah, so that was the fast track from just a small just like couple kids and couple adults having fun on the beach to like maybe we can do something bigger.
Then you managed, and then you call your friend in LA, and then you went through this 7 months training.
Uh-huh. Yeah. When we decided we're going to the SEA Games, now we have a national team. Now we're like, okay, what the hell do we do now? Okay, we're like, we need a coach because I'm not good enough to be a coach, you know. And so we tried. We were because at that time we didn't have waves in Yangon, and to be able to compete, to be able to surf even big waves, like we have a long way to go. So we were like, we're gonna make enough money so that we can spend a 2-month training program in Bali, and we don't have that much money. So we tried to hire a coach from Bali, but they were charging $200 a day, which is fair for a pro level coach, but we didn't have that money. So I was like, okay, a lot of my friends from California, they're also amateur surfers where they compete in the regional competitions, but they're not pros. But they spend their whole day on the beach. Like some of them are lifeguards, some of them work for Surfers Healing, which is like this surfing NGO. So I was like, do you want to come? Like, we'll cover all your living costs and food costs. You'll get to live in Bali for 2 months, but we can't really pay you like, we can pay you, but we can't pay you so much. And he was like, when do you need me by? And we're like, oh, as soon as possible. When can you come? And he just flew in the next day to Myanmar. So from the moment he arrived in Myanmar, we had a 7-month training program. We had a month in Myanmar, in Muay Sang, and then 2 months in Indonesia. 3 months in Indonesia, and then 2 more months in Myanmar, and then 2 months in the Philippines, right before the SEA Games. So I had really long hair. My whole hair I was like dark, like my hair was all crispy after I came back. My parents didn't remember me because I was so sunburned when I came back home. But yeah, that was the, like, I think we had a very fast track journey, but we did our best and we worked with what we had. And I'm actually so proud of my team, because one of our boys, I'm so proud of my team because they only started surfing 3 years ago as well. And we were competing with people who were surfing for like 20 years. And they were all sponsored by like Billabong and, like Vans and all the big brands. And we were just like kids, me and the kids from the village. And one of the boys actually won 2 heats in the SEA Games. And we only had one board because there was a typhoon on the week of the SEA Games where, so the boys were like, hey, like, should we still compete? Like, should we like exit the competition? Because the waves were like 15 feet and there was a typhoon at that time. So they halted the competition and to let the typhoon die out, but it didn't die out. So they had to continue the competition. And we were just trying to think like, okay, how do I not like die, let alone win? Because we weren't pros, on a global scale. We weren't that big of a pros. So I'm very proud of my boys. We had 6 boards in total. We snapped 3. We competed with 3 boards, 4 people. We just snapped the board in half, like the first day of the typhoon, and it was we only had 2 competition boards, and we snapped 1. And I was like, well, I can't buy another one. So yeah, so that was the SEA Games. It was good fun. We met a lot of cool people. Everyone was so nice to us. They were so helpful. And now the boys are also very motivated. So I had a lot of plans. I think after SEA Games, I had a lot of plans to go back to the beach and do more competitions in the country. I wanted to do more competitions in the country and also do more competitions at other beaches. It's like with surfing, you just leave a board and it'll pick up by itself because like it's so fun. And if you're a kid, like you love they love it. The kids love it. So I wanted to do that, but February 1st just screwed with all of us. So yeah. So up till since then, I've been just haven't really been able to do much. I haven't been able to go back there either. Go back to the beach. But hopefully by next monsoon, by next year, April, I hope that we can restart the season. Yeah.
So at the SEA Games, like how long is it? It's like how many people are there also?
So at the SEA Games, we had SEA Games was in December, but we wanted. So with surfing, every beach is different, right? So the more you practice on the beach, the more you know the wave, the better it is. So we spent a month before SEA Games on that beach. And then SEA Games was 3 weeks long, so 2 months in the Philippines. And we had the Malaysian team, they were really good. Singapore team, they were good too. But the best teams were, of course, Indonesia, because they compete on the world level. Like all the pros, like all the world pros from around the world go to Indonesia. So Indonesia was really good. Thailand was surprisingly so good. Thailand had a huge fund for their surfing team. They have really good backing from the state. And I've never been, but apparently Phuket has good waves, and they're able to travel around the world too as a team, fully fun. Like the athletes do not have to worry about anything. So Thailand was a surprise, but also I was very happy to see that because it's so close to us. So yeah, and so Malaysia, Thailand, Singapore, Indonesia, Myanmar, Philippines. That was it. 6 countries. Yep.
Wow. And so like, okay, maybe I want to come back to the training first. I see if it's true, but like how for this, how is one day look like of high level training to get ready for the SEA Games?
So we were surfing a lot. We were surfing a lot because we didn't want to make a fool out of ourselves because we were still So we would usually have a morning session. So we would wake up around 5:30, stretch. From 6 to around 9, we would surf. Sometimes we change the training times depending on the tide of the sea. So there are certain beaches that are better at higher tide and lower tide. So the training hours switch, but usually we surf 3 times a day. So about like 6 to 7 hours a day, every single day. And you take days off when you get sick. That's about it. Yeah. And we just like our coach was like, you need to first get to the level where you're comfortable in the water. You don't get scared when the waves are big. So instead of like, we would just surf every single day to make ourselves more comfortable in the water before we can move on to more pro level. Like, how do you do your turns? How do you do powerful turns? So first we had like that, even that step was a big step for us. And every time we would surf, our coach would film us. Like Robbie, he's my friend. He would film us, and at night we would rewatch everything. And that was I never knew that I was doing something wrong until I saw myself on camera. So we would just we would make it we would put in the effort to film. And most of the professional surf teams, they'll have a coach, they'll have a person who just films, they'll have someone in the water who's like trying to tell them like, you know, where the waves are coming from. And they have a photographer, they'll have a drone guy or girl. Surfing is a lot about content as well. So most teams have these crews. And that's how you get sponsors as well, when you can capture, you know, that. So we barely had a coach, and our coach was such a champ. He was the manager, he was the photographer, he was the videographer, he was also like the babysitter and everything. Okay, it was great to have a good friend who was also very passionate about helping us. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hopefully. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, we're hoping that he'll keep helping us too. So yeah. I'm excited.
How would you say your level has improved before, after this training?
Oh, a lot. I would say a lot. Like I would have never imagined myself surfing the waves that I surfed back then. Like when the typhoon hit, I was like, I'm not gonna go home because it was so big. And like, one, it's big, and two, when it gets big, the currents get really strong, and it's like, it's rocky, and if you end up in the wrong area at the wrong time and you freak out, like the current can pull you into, there's like so many factors when it's big, and part of it is just fear, and overcoming that fear is so difficult. And it's funny because the more you're afraid, the more like, the worse you feel in the water, the more you feel like you're screwing up. So surfing every single day kind of numb that fear a little, where we were just like, okay, don't think, you're gonna be fine. Like it's fine, you can go. Yeah, so definitely being comfortable in the water is so important. If I didn't do that, I wouldn't have paddled out in the SEA Games. It's a little scary. Yeah.
No, I love it, because I think the fact that you mentioned how to overcome your fear, and surfing could I don't know, but could also be risky, right? I mean, you could actually drown probably. So there is an actual physical risk. But yeah, I really love. I mean, I think it's, you could also apply this to many different things in your life, like, I don't know, random like fear of public speaking or whatever. I know, for me, just
public speaking is a lot harder than surfing. Just
you need to do a 7 months training public speaking every day. At some point, I'm sure it's gone. But I think no one does that. This 7 months public speaking training every day.
Yeah, I guess so.
But no, I really, really love it. That you really give, yourself the chance. What were your goals to achieve at the SEA Games with you and the 4 other surfers, and then all the team, of course?
I was hoping to get a bronze, and I could have gotten it. That's why I want to keep trying to go to the SEA Games. That's why I haven't given up. Like, I want to keep surfing. Of course, my goal is to win a medal, and my goal is for the kids, like for the boys, to win a medal. But the boys have a long way to go, just because in Southeast Asia, for instance, the surfers from the Philippines, they started surfing when they were 3. They started surfing in a surf league, a professional league, with other surfers who are really good, who are supporting them or teaching them since they were little, right? And we just started surfing 3 years ago. We didn't have anyone at the beach who was teaching us, who was doing anything to us. So we were just trying to be realistic. Like, I wanted them to connect with other surfers. Like, I wanted them to see, like, if you want to be an athlete, like, look at them. Like, they don't drink, they don't smoke, like they're good people. Just because you're a pro, you don't have to be cocky. All these things that I want to show them that I can't really tell them, like they have to see themselves because they're 15-year-old boys, and of course 15-year-old boys don't want to listen to, me telling them stuff about life. So from my goal was to win a bronze, which I didn't, which I was a little bit bummed. And I also wanted them to meet other surfers because they don't get to do that a lot, at all, actually. Not even a lot. They don't get to meet too many surfers. Yeah, and I think overall we did pretty well. Everyone was impressed. Everyone was like, the Filipino team was like, we saw you 2 months ago. You weren't surfing like this to the boys. Yeah, and I think they felt good too. I think they had I think it was a very memorable time for them as well. So I would like to do more. But at that time, like, of course I wanted to win a bronze, but I was going through some personal stuff where, like, my dad passed away the month before the SEA Games, and he was fighting with like cancer all along. So like and I found out that my dad had cancer. It was a month later that I found out that it was a month later I got the email from Philippines about the SEA Games. And like, it was a difficult choice for me because I was taking care of my dad at the time. So I was balancing like staying at the hospital and then going to training, and then like coming back for a couple of days, going back to training. Like, the good thing was like Bangkok was pretty easy to fly out to Indo and stuff at that time. But yeah, so so my dad was sick, and then SEA Games, I was in Indonesia doing my training. So right before the SEA Games, like, I had to fly back home, and then my dad passed away, and I went back to the Philippines. So it was like, at that time I wasn't grieving, I was doing fine, but I guess I was I assume I was like I was grieving in my own way at that time. So I don't know. I tried my best, but I felt like I could have done better, almost. But I try not to be too hard on myself because of the situation at that time, and personally. Yeah. So that was, that was a interesting year, 2019.
Yeah.
It was very interesting. Yeah.
But it's nice. I think it's very cool to have this both individual, objective and ambition, but at the same time you have the ambition for your own team, own community. And I really love when you say, you say like, look at other athletes, they don't drink, they don't smoke, they work hard. That's why they are here. And your team had to work hard as well for 7 months, right? To be at this level. So you have this collective ambition and goal as well. I really love it. And yeah, I mean, from what I understand, when you describe Luca, or I think it's Luca, or when the guy from Philippines, it's what you want.
Look, yeah.
Look.
Yeah.
It's what you want to do in Myanmar, I guess.
Yeah, very similar. Yeah. Sponsors, like, we really need to film, and I think if we can get sponsors, we will be able to do more. It's unfortunate, but you do need money to do stuff, even if it's surfing. Yeah, I would like to buy, I don't need to, but I would like to buy boards, but real boards that's made for learning surfing, not, the half broken boards that we try to scrap together. And yeah, I want to do more competitions in the country. Basically what Luke has done. Talking, like, I'm always excited to meet people who are interested in surfing. So like when I got to Bangkok and I got to meet Starboard, and they like their project is really cool because they're on this environmental mission to be carbon negative, like not even net zero, carbon negative through um, through mangrove replantation. But also they also have this program that's like a plastic offset program where they like help clean up oceans. Very close connection to Myanmar, so I'm hoping like in the future we can get, if not financial, but like more sponsors, like more, even if it's like apparels, right? Like like rash guards, like sunscreen, wax, whatever. Like everything is very helpful to us. So this year I was hoping, like this 2020, I had plans to film in Muisao and then like send the clips to my friend, to our coach, like who was here, to send the clips to California, and he was going to help us find like sponsors. But there are lots of surf brands in California, so I was hoping to do that, but we didn't end up filming this year.
Yeah,
but, yeah. I think in the future, in the near future, I would like to do that.
Are you excited about future?
how do you because you're coming back to super important topic, I think, that you mentioned about, the connection with the ocean and the climate awareness. How do you, try to convey this to the kids who, attend the surfing training? Is it more like activities that you do, or is it you want them to just realize when they, I don't know, like how do you manage to do that?
Through activities that not I didn't start it, but they were, when I arrived, the sailing program was already doing Trash Hero, which is collecting trash, keeping the city clean, and like, just teaching people that having trash everywhere is worse. No trash is better than trash. But the problem with that is, after you collect the trash, it has to go somewhere, and in Myanmar, we have nowhere to send it to. So I think at this point, I only participate in the Trash Hero program. But whenever we surf and then we see a plastic bag, I'm always so happy when the kids like take the plastic from the ocean and puts it in their pants and then takes it back to the shore. But when you think about it, it's a little bit dark, because you bring that plastic bag on land, throw it in the trash, and trash probably goes to landfill and probably goes back in the ocean, right? So it's good that the boys now, when they see trash in the ocean, they take it back. But the reason I want to do more of that is because Starboard, like there's the plastic offset program that I was telling you about, that's organized by Starboard. What they do is they buy the plastic bag by kilograms. So you get money for the plastic you collect. And like they are trying to find out how they can close the loop. What we have to do is just collect plastic for them. And they have pilot projects in a lot of countries. And I really want to give that a try. Yeah, and because I haven't lived in Muisao, I haven't been able to do like more community-driven stuff. And I don't know, like I was hoping to be there this past May, but with everything that's going on, I don't know, like, a lot of things that I want to do, but I don't know if or when I can do it. But I think like whatever happens, I think I'm going to go back next season. Like whatever happens, I don't think it's going to be an issue to surf. Hopefully not. Hopefully it's not a problem to just surf and clean up trash, but you never know.
Yeah. No, but it's sad to see that.
it's a problem because like with trash, right? Like we ask them, they collect the trash, but then you take it back to the village. But because there's no waste management system in the village, everyone just burns the trash. Like people burn their most people burn their household trash. So you have all this trash that we collect from the beach. Like, what do you do with it? Like we just there's a dumpster where people collect the trash and dump it. But on that level, like I don't know what to do anymore because I don't know. We don't have a waste we don't have a waste management plan as a country, basically. So yeah, I mean we still try, but on the trash side, there's still things that we have to think about, right? Like so that it's not just a PR stunt.
Yeah.
So we're starting with helping them being closer to nature by like they see fish with plastic inside, so it's easier to explain to them where the plastic goes.
Yeah, they just
yeah. But yeah, it's a problem that when you really sit down and think about it, that needs a solution that you alone can't solve.
Yeah.
In Myanmar, I mean, with regards to waste. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, I mean, you say in Myanmar, but in so many places, yeah, I think in many, islands as well, there's usually no, I mean, in many islands I've been, the same issue. There's no waste management system. So what can you do with the trash? No, but thanks for sharing, a bit your plans, what you want to do. I really love how you want to promote surf. It's not only about surfing. It's about developing all these values. It's about maybe finding their passion in life. It's about caring about the environment. It's about getting exposed to a new world. It's about inspiring your community. So for me, I think it's very, very cool.
I think I guess it's I guess it's what surfing has given me that I want to share. Like through surfing, I cared more about the environment because through surfing, right? Not intentionally at all, just because I was just so close to the ocean every day. Overall, if you're a happy person, you're just nicer to other people as well. So it gave me that, surfing gave me that. So I I want to give it to them too. And it's sad. When I really got to know my teammates, the kids from the village, they started working when they were in fourth grade. They quit school in their third grade, started working as a mechanic. Fourth grade, some people there was one kid, he gets all the way to eighth grade, but they can't pass the final exam because they have family problems and whatnot. So none of my kids has made it through high school. And it's and of course, the motivational quote I hear from my family is oh, you have to go to college, can't drop out of school, you have to be, if you want to make it, you got to be educated. And when I unconsciously also say that to them, hey, work hard, if you get a chance, try to go back to school. I know it's been a while, but then one day they were just look, there's how do you expect us to go back to school? We're having to make money. The educational system is not the greatest. and he that kid was just can you stop telling me to come back to school? Because I don't want to be in that system. And I'd rather, if I have to fight to make it anywhere, he was I'd rather fight. I'd rather surf and make it somewhere than go through the system. And and that made me think a lot, because it made me think, like, I was speaking from a position of privilege, right? And it's not the same life for a lot of people back home. And that made me think a lot, like really hard about, maybe, yeah, that makes sense. Like, to them, surfing is really big. To them, surfing is, if they make it, they're the first ones in the country to do it on a publicly as well. So that made me think, like, on a grander scale, I bet they want to they want to be somebody they would rather be somebody in surfing than try to, go back to school or try to finish high school. Yeah. So yeah, it's hard. It's hard. Kids don't have it easy. A lot of the kids don't have it easy in Myanmar, I feel like. And it's very difficult for them. Yeah. Yeah. But they're super happy when they surf, so I'm happy. I can't help them. I can't do much, but like, if they're happy when they surf, that's cool. I think it's a good thing to do. It's a good thing. It's a good thing to surf if they're happy. If you're happy when you're surfing. Yeah.
And you discovered a new surfing spot, so
yeah, I know. I'm excited to go. I really want to go now. Like, now that I know for sure that it's there. Yeah.
No, but that's cool. I maybe to close the surfing chapter, I had I was, because you mentioned your parents were not really, too keen on you going surfing around. So I wonder, how did you convince them? Or was uncle going with you? Was it the deal?
Oh, I didn't tell them. Like,
okay.
I'm going to the beach, and they're like, "What's that?" I was like, "Oh, like, it's like something. It's like a floaty thing in the water." I don't think they knew what surfing was until, like, some of the local news started covering me, and there was a picture of me surfing a really big wave, and then they knew. But then every time I would come back, I would be burnt, sunburnt. And I'm an only daughter in an Asian family, and usually they want their daughters to be, not sunburnt with frisky hair. when like, especially if you're in your 20s, not the most ideal situation for a daughter. But like, my parents never, I mean, they would express their dislike, but they would never force me to do, like, they would always let me do something that I am passionate about.
Did it help to have yourself in the news?
Did it help? Oh, at that time, like, I was dealing with my dad, my dad being really sick. So I didn't even, I missed the whole thing. Like, I missed the whole period where I was in the news, because I was in the hospital with my dad. So the links that I sent you, I actually Googled myself, and like, it's like, hey, look, there's like some articles. But yeah, there was a period. I think it would have helped if the momentum kept going, and if this year I was able to do more events, and post about it. I think we would be able to get more sponsors. Who knows? But because now everything has kind of stopped. The PR, I would only want to do PR if we can get more resources for our surfing team. Like, I don't really enjoy. Having to speak to newspapers too much.
Podcasts are better.
Podcasts are so much better, because in newspaper they have an agenda, But every every PR is good PR when we're this small. If my ultimate goal is for more people to know who we are, so that we can get more resources. So all PR is good PR, I think. Yeah, for now. Unless it's bad PR, but I don't think we'll ever get bad PR. We're not bad people.
Where is the best? I mean, I guess it's a question that every surfer like debate on, but what is the best surfing spot in the world for you?
Best surfing spot in the world. I think it depends. There are lots of good spots, but there was a day that it was really good conditions at the beach and there was no one there. So it's a beach called Latigo in California. And to get to that wave, you have to like walk down some stairs and walk for about 20 minutes across a private beach to get there. It's a public wave, but you have to walk across a private beach, so not a lot of people go there. But yeah, it was like, I would say about like a little bit over my head. It's always my favorite waves are the waves that are a little bit higher than my head, like not too big, not too small. Sunset, like we saw a whale and it was just me and my friend, two people. I would say it's the best. It was the best surf session of my life. Not a famous wave at all, but it was the right conditions on that day, and there was no one there, which is always the best thing.
Yeah.
Surfing is getting crowded. Like more and more people are surfing around the world, and beaches are starting to get very, very, very crowded usually. Yeah, in Bali you have to fight to get away. You really have to be aggressive and fight, and I don't enjoy that at all.
Is it a trend coming from Olympic Games and Sea Games, or is there surf influencer? I don't know.
Yeah, I think Olympic Games and Sea Games, and also technology, drones, content, marketing, GoPro, all that. Yeah, I think all the extreme sports are able to boom like this because technology is able to now capture these moments that most people can't experience. Right. Yeah.
That's so cool. It's interesting to discover your life through sports and surfing.
Yeah, sports saved my life. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of sports. Yeah, big sports saved my life.
And yeah, I think, I mean, we are approaching towards the end, so there's like a few questions that I always like to end with. But before, maybe I was thinking we never spoke about TB. Maybe just one question, so we get the guest. Yeah, is it a word? But I just wonder, because I spoke a bit about this with Tuan since he's attending your training, and we were speaking about Flourish app at some point, because it's one of my favorite apps, and I don't do a lot of data visualization, but I have some data to visualize, and I feel like data visualization is so important. But that something, I mean, I feel like that's something mainstream in the sense like it's just something people will be like, I don't know, I want to learn to, I don't know, it's a bit random thoughts, but yeah, I just wonder, what is, why did you join TB? What is the problem that TB is trying to solve through data and design?
Because TB is we're a very unique company, because we can our colleagues are very flexible and very adaptable. So we're able to take on projects that are a range of everything when it comes to tech and data. Right? In terms of data visualization, first we got in, when I first joined, TB was working on a township mapping tool where we were working on a tool where the township level officers can report crime and stuff. through the app and not have to go through the paperwork. We want to make existing systems better with technology, but we realized that in developing countries, we realized pretty early that you can hire the best dev team in the world. You still might not solve the problem you're able to solve because people are not data literate, right? You can build a fanciest app to help with like some government, like public system, but nobody's going to use it because most people in our country thinks Facebook and Google are interchangeable. Like a lot of stuff goes on Facebook. We skipped the whole desktop age. We went straight into mobile. Like everyone now has a phone, but I would say most people don't know how to use a computer. So there were a lot of considerations where we realized you can waste time, you can waste money to build a tech product that you hope that will help existing processes become better, but turns out nobody wants to use it. But we believe that it can be helpful. So our brand is human-centered design, which is before we build anything, we try to understand who are the users going to be, how data literate are they, and if we build something, we want to make sure that these people can use it, right? Like you build something for the end users. If the end users can't use it, then your product basically fails. So a lot of the data training that we do is so that we can help people in Myanmar at first, but now like Southeast Asia, become more data literate. So through one field is in journalism, where I think when the Panama Papers came out, like there were a lot of data and like understanding that data can uncover a lot of things. So we started working with journalists and then we met journalists who specializes in data journalism, and we specialize in human-centered design, helping people understand complexity. Right, so we try to help them tell the story, but also turn data into turn complexity into something that people can easily understand. We believe, sorry, I'm speaking for the whole team, but I believe that we make things can be so complex, but data visualization can, to the best of its ability, simplify that complexity in a couple of seconds. And as you know, most of us don't have an attention span that's important. So if you can communicate something important in like a matter of 6 seconds, that is I feel like you're contributing a little bit to the world.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it's great. It's like whether recently, with COP26, I think I've never seen so many beautiful data visualization to explain about climate crisis and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to the IPCC report, where it's like 42 page of. Well, I don't know if it's a good example, but it's what I think. I think, I feel like your job is, okay, how can we make sure that people get to see and read IPCC report, but in a beautiful way with the key data? So I think it's interesting.
Yeah, a good example that I could give is on like mangrove loss reporting before. Like if it is in an article, it's usually like from 2005 to 2006, for instance, Vietnam didn't lose mangroves, actually. Myanmar lost 40% of its mangroves. Like from 2007 to 2009, it lost 30%. And it's like in a paragraph, right? And when you're reading as a reader, you probably just like, oh, it's bad. And you probably skim through all the numbers. And like at the end of the story in your head, you only know that Myanmar is losing mangroves, but it probably won't. You probably won't think about it anymore. But if you can like imagine that same information, but on a map where if you have a map with mangroves highlighted in 1995, let's say, then you have a map with the remaining mangroves in 2020. And if you slide, you can see the change, like how much was lost. And you like that, I feel like that a good example of simplifying complexity is that where you're not sacrificing any information, but you're translating this mundane, very numerical data into something, to the main point that you're trying to communicate, which is look like we're losing a ton of mangrove. I don't care that, it's 30%, but look, if you were losing a ton of mangroves, because if you look from 1995 to 2020 in like 2 seconds, you can see how much we lost. Yeah. So that's a good example, I think, of simplifying complexity, but also not sacrificing accuracy. Always a fine line. Yeah, always a fine line. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, totally. It's super linked to storytelling, and I feel like because you mentioned data visual, but I feel like you need to be super creative as well in order to find the visualization that people will relate to.
Yeah, design. I'm really into design now because I'm learning in the process as well in this field. So I'm starting to realize that design is so important. Like colors, everything from font to everything. And I get to do it remotely. So like now because of COVID, like life is a little different, but if life was normal, quote unquote, I can still work and be with my surf team. So I was very lucky to stumble across to work with BB. It's very fulfilling. Yeah.
Cool. So I have my final 3 questions for you. First one is, how old are you now? I think 27.
I'm 27 now.
I did a quick calculation because I just saw you are 25 at the SEA Games.
Yeah, 27 now.
Okay. So, imagine you can go back in time. And let's say you can go back in time and you can meet younger Nida when she's attending the first day of university in California. What would you tell her on that day?
Oof. To be honest with myself, I think. Yeah. To be more aware of things and be more honest with myself.
Okay.
Yeah. Basically accepting that if something bothers you, you have to be honest with yourself that it bothers you, yeah.
Because you were trying to, because you were not really honest, like you were pretending as if things were not bothering you? Or?
Yeah, it's just like things was fine, that the world was fine. But then when it comes to the environment, I think, like when I first started, a lot of my school was we also had to learn a lot of environmental related stuff because I was working with maps, right, which is geography, GIS data, climate data, weather data. And it bothered me, but I had a kind of a dystopian view, and I was like, oh, who am I to do anything about it? Like people are gonna ruin this world anyway. Like, who am I to do anything about it? Like, I'm fine. Just like when I see, like, just don't go to places with a lot of trash. I try to be as fine as possible. And then like the more I try to try to slither my way around these things that makes me uncomfortable, I end up actually getting to more places that makes me uncomfortable in terms of the trash problem. Water, like fresh water is a big issue in my home, and it bothers me. And because it bothers me, I don't like that it bothered me when I was young. And I was just like, instead of doing something about it, I kind of sulked and try to put a wall around it. Like, but now I think if I like, back to the question, I would tell myself like to be honest with myself, and if it bothers you, do something about it instead of trying to run away from the problems of the world because they're too big for you. Because it's not, even if you can do a small thing, like it's better than closing your eyes and not doing something and pretending like it doesn't exist. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And,
I'm very good at that. Very good at pretending something doesn't exist. Yeah.
And how do you want to, whether it's listeners right now or people in the life in general, how do you want people to remember you for and to know you for?
Oh, that's a hard question. Didn't think about that. How do I want people to remember me for? I think a good analogy is a tree. Like I want people to remember me like someone who's like a tree, where I can stand on myself, I have strong roots, like good foundations, and I have shade enough for people to come hang out. I want to be remembered as a tree, like maybe like a mango tree, where I can feed myself and also feed more fruits to other people who want to eat it. There it is. I want to be remembered like I'm a mango tree. Yeah.
That's cool. I hope you add this into your LinkedIn profile. That's very cool.
When I grow up, I want to be a mango tree. I always talk about how cool trees are and how they've actually figured out the meaning of life, because trees don't have to move anywhere, and they can not only support themselves, they can spread their genes everywhere without doing anything, and be a good contribution to the earth. I always thought trees have found the secret to life. It's like jokes. It's kind of funny, but kind of not. Like, yeah. My dad always says, like, first make sure you don't turn into a tree that is poisonous to other people. And then you can when you can make sure you're a tree that's not poisonous to other people, you can focus your energy on trying to grow it to a strong tree. And then only after you become a strong tree can you actually make some fruit and help other people. So I found that analogy. I really like that analogy. And I always think about my life in terms of that cycle, where I'm like, okay, if I'm a tree, which stage am I in? Like, am I a strong tree? Am I ready to help other people?
So which
stage am I in? I think I'm starting to want to flower, but still now there's a little drought in my life. So I have to be very, very strong and patient.
That's a cool That's a very cool metaphor.
Tuan will like this exact metaphor. I would say I'm a robusta coffee. I feel like a robusta coffee plant right now because I'm having to be very drought resistant. But I wish to be arabica. I wish to be arabica where I can, like give good coffee to people, not just the bad kind. But right now, I feel like if I was a tree, I was doing fine. I'm a strong tree, but there's a little drought right now, but we'll be fine. I'll save some water. And then when the rain comes again, we'll be fine. Like I'll be a fine tree.
Cool. Tuan has a reason to listen till the end.
Yeah.
And how would you describe yourself in 3 hashtags?
In 3 hashtags. Oh.
It should be easier than the just previous question.
I guess like it would be hashtag chill. I think I'm very chill. Hashtag hard-headed, I'd say, but also hashtag empathetic. I back to the honesty question. I'm what the older I get, the more I accept that I'm a very empathetic person, and that's why things bother me a lot. Yeah.
Cool. So you are chill, but what's the word you use?
Hard-headed.
Oh, you're hard-headed. Yeah. And
empathetic.
Empathetic. Cool. Yeah, I think it's interesting how. Because I feel like the fact that you want to accept your empathy, and it's part of having your strong roots in the soil. So, yeah. Cool. And yeah, the real final question is, how can people, connect with you, and how can people help you?
I used to have a social media page, but
you not anymore.
Not anymore. I used to have a Facebook athlete profile in SEA Games, but like I turned it off when stuff started happening in Myanmar. Very recently, actually. But I'm finding the strength to come back online again on Facebook. I'm on Instagram too, but I have an Instagram. But the best way is through WhatsApp. Like I'm working on being more public about my endeavors. So yeah, I'll be back online on Instagram and on Facebook, and I have a LinkedIn profile too, but it's not so active on there. But the best way to contact me is through WhatsApp, and you have my numbers.
Okay. Yes. If anyone wants to contact her, let me know.
Yeah, but I do check my Instagram too every once in a while, but it's a private page, so it's Nida Soe, but with SOUL. But yeah, I check my Instagram more than my Facebook. Instagram and WhatsApp is the best.
Thank you so much, Nida, for your time.
Thanks for listening. I feel like I rambled on so much about surfing. I love talking about surfing.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because to get to know more about surfing, but also getting to know someone, via surfing, it's interesting. Like you don't give up, that you don't do it only for yourself, that it's a way to take care of your mental health, all these kind of things. I think it's super interesting. Hope that it encourages people to surf. Me, okay, I might try again. Well, Cambodia, I don't know, but maybe in Phuket. Uh, but
Yeah.
yeah, no, I mean, I really love the conversation. So yeah, thanks so much.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Long. It was good to speak to you, and also good to connect with people. I actually found your podcast very inspiring. It's like, because coming from a sports, like growing up as a sports, it's like not a lot of people tell the story, and I think those are stories that that's good to be told in Southeast Asia. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I mean, I don't know. For me, it's a lot of cool stories, cool anecdotes, how you ended up in the SEA Games, how you will win a medal at the next SEA Games.
Yeah, I will. My goal is
I
still
will vouch for you.
Thank you.
And yeah, and so maybe the last thing I want to say is how eventually you close the loop, because you said, basketball, you wanted to play for the SEA Games.
Mhm.
Yeah, you didn't, but you did through another sport where I think it's super beautiful.
Yeah, I guess it's always been something that I subconsciously wanted in life, is to perform at a sports event. So even though I didn't really consciously try to get this as a goal, like try to get to the SEA Games as a surfer as a goal, like you said, right? Like a lot of my choices were subconsciously driven by me my passion for sports. Right.
You're looking for the Olympics also?
Yeah, I really want to. I really want. They have wild cards where for the Youth Olympics, we may have a chance. Not me, but
Your team.
The team. Yeah, yeah. So of course, always aim high, right? If you're gonna do it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
And hopefully less people are less scared of the water and care more about the environment if they end up trying surfing because of me. That's also like my wish, like not just that more people surf, but that more people surf and more people care about the environment through that. Thank you so much for your time.
Congrats for listening until the end of this episode. Of course, to best support Lifeline, you can share this episode to 2 of your friends and subscribe to the next episodes on any platform. See you next time!